I was at the age of 18 when I was choosing to play for the A national team. I really felt honored when I got the letter home. I had Line, my daughter, at the age of 17, and I get picked on the A national team at the age of 18. So I felt like I did something really amazing. I have even a picture of me holding Line after my first A national team game. Line is 1. I didn't have a good experience in my first year of being in a practice group. I had a bad experience getting sexually harassed by my national team coach. We had a little party. Coach was there. The whole team was there. We ended up going downtown. Everybody was having fun in the club. He acted like he was one of us. He was really drunk and out of line. Our coach was just walking between players, making out with players, and came up to me and my best friend, came up between us, and they say, let's go to a hotel. And we were just like, we kind of freaked out. We were just like, what? Did he really just say that? And he was serious. He was like, it was not really a question. It was just like, let's go. And we were just like, no, we're still having fun, you know. And luckily the American on the men's team for our club was just right there, and he spotted it out. Well, he was just, hey girls, come on, dance with me. We was like, okay, you know. It was so awkward. And what I always regret is my reaction, you know. My reaction should have been like, no. Like, you are my coach, like, this is not right. At the time, I just wanted to get picked. I just wanted to play. I didn't have the balls to confront my coach for what he done to me and us. Luckily, he didn't get to harass me like that, or it didn't get to me like emotionally. I looked up to him, like as a coach, because to be honest, he is a really good basketball coach. But the sexual harassment didn't stop, so the respect kind of went away. We had 2 older girls on the team that was like 10 years older than me. And they saw like, no, this is not okay. So they took it further. And we was called into a meeting with KKI, and they announced that he getting fired. KKI came out with a statement that he got fired because of breach of trust, a little cover-up. After that, it didn't really interest me being on a national team. I came to some practices, I skipped some practices. I didn't take it seriously after that. The national team became a joke to me. I didn't feel honored anymore to be there. But then he got hired to my home club. I felt excited about it in a coaching ways. We getting a good coach hired to my little club. They have never done nothing in history, ever. But I remember I was a little worried about his other side. At the time, I was thinking of myself, I'm strong enough, I'm not gonna let none like that bother me. And I would never allow him to disrespect me or harass me. He did keep on harassing girls. He did text girls on my team about how good some of their body parts look. That's what he did. Years later, there come up some stories about coaches and referees in the league harassing girls. Our chairman of KKI get on an interview, and he says there have never been nothing on the table about sexual harassment. I felt so betrayed when I seen this. I got mad. I started talking to the girls. I was on a national team. We was all like mad.
Og KK hefur aldrei sópað neinu undir teppi. Nú ég bara tala það sem ég hef þá fengið inn á borð til mín. Ég get ekki talað fyrir hönd annara sem hafa verið á undanförnum árum eða áratugum. En það sem hefur komið inn til okkar hefur alltaf verið tekið á.
That is not true. I was in the meeting, and we all know why he got fired. At the time, I didn't feel like there was anything wrong with the statement. But to look back, why not saying why he getting fired? And to look back at it for real, I see why, because he got back hired into the federation. He is back coaching youth teams, has a little job inside of the federation.
There really was no consequences for this coach like on his career as a whole. And because it was never announced why he was fired from the national team, there's absolutely no consequence of what he did.
Flott. Góðan úr lið. So I've been in the women's game now for 7 years. I started to coach my daughter when she was 7. Didn't know a whole lot about the women's side. I had assistant coaches that were women. I talked to a lot of women as well. And it was shocking, and it still is shocking to learn just the plethora of stories about, girls being belittled, disrespected, and then all the sexual harassment. So yeah, in the beginning, I understood it was all about opportunities, and we had to make sure that girls would get opportunities from the get-go, from the time they were young, and try to make sure that opportunities and expectations and all those, external things are the same, to give them the opportunity to increase their own worth. Then it's about, how to handle all the gender stuff, all the harassment and all that stuff. And what's sad about it is that I'm more concerned about that than I am about the basketball. Now my daughter is going to be 15. It's very appropriate that we start to talk to them about these things very seriously. We just want to make sure that we were not silent bystanders in these events. We need to be role models for these girls, and we just need to take a stand, and we need to say, hey, listen, we know what's going on. We don't like it. We don't approve, or we don't agree with the way the federation has been treated it. We actually despise how it has been done. It's really, really sad that this is the case. We need to get this out of the way so we can get to what this is all about, which is to play and practice basketball.
So the association was criticized a little bit, for hussing, about those issues. The association explained that they were just like any corporation.
Við erum ekki dómsvald. Þetta bara sem venjuleg starfsmannmál. Það gerist eitthvað inn í fyrirtækjum og það tekið á því. Nú er bara að nefna fyrirtæki með fullir virðingu fyrir því, hagkaup. Það gerist eitthvað starfsmannamál þar innandyra sem teljast óeðlileg samskipti. Hagkaup sendir ekkert fréttatilkynningu daginn eftir og lætur vita af því að þessi starfsmaður látin fara að því að hann hafi gert eitthvað.
First of all, Cocoa is not a private company. It's not their job to protect their shareholders. It's not their job to protect their owners. Cocoa is publicly funded to a certain extent. So, and their whole existence serves a whole different purpose than Hagkaup does.
Well, they are not responsible to their shareholders, to protecting their image. So their image is actually, it doesn't need and shouldn't be protected. I mean, they should be protecting their players and those that are, practicing their sport. But it's very discouraging, being a parent and knowing that they think they are not responsible for telling us about those issues, specifically when they rehire coaches back into the national team, that they should at least tell us, we decided to give them another chance for whatever reason they did.
There was another coach recently who got fired from his club because he was messaging a woman on his team. And he's fired and he's picked up by another club. This is how it goes. And he's coaching a youth national team.
So in March 2021, the association sent a letter to all the clubs that they were going to direct all statements made publicly that they thought were dishonoring or disrespectful for the association and for the game to the disciplinary committee.
Basically giving themselves carte blanche on punishing anyone, anywhere that said anything about them.
It was interesting getting this letter at that time because we had just premiered the movie Raise the Bar that told the story of 10-year-old girls that criticized the association for not allowing them to play against boys. And then also around that time, it was in the news that the association had been aware of a referee who was sexually harassing players.
There was a referee who quit suddenly reffing in the league. Later I found out that the official statement that he put out was that he was injured.
It's only coming in the news a year later that he is suspended because of harassing somebody in the women's league. I felt like the federation made it seem like he was injured or was all quiet about it. They didn't really come with no statement. The way I felt like they was like hussing it.
A while ago now, there was a player in Icelandic basketball who was charged with rape.
A couple of years later, he's back on the national team.
The National Olympic and Sports Association of Iceland have it written into their main law that individuals who have been penalized for violations of the penal code regarding sexual violence cannot be selected to serve within the sports community. Yet they chose him to be on the men's national team, and he also played for 2 teams in the men's league in Iceland after he had been found guilty of raping.
There was a couple of female players came out in the media and said, I will not play for the national team as long as this player is playing. There's, more players that came out, wrote some articles and interviews and stuff. Nothing happened.
Me and the people around me were talking a lot about this culture. And we were thinking like, what can we do about this? And this was right around when Me Too was happening. So there was a lot of awareness going on. And I felt like not really anyone was taking this portion of the population. Like nobody was talking about basketball specifically. We reached out to many women and we were trying to get them to appear on camera and we were gonna edit it together and get the message out. I don't remember the exact number, but it was over 40. And we were talking to girls in every sport.
We talked to the first girl and we talked to the second girl and third girl and I'm like, wow, she has a story, something happened to her, and then slowly start realizing it's happening to everybody. There was not a single girl in that group that hadn't had some kind of incident happening to her involving a coach, a board member, a ref, a player in the club, or whatever it is. And I'm just going, holy shit, we got to put this out. The biggest disappointment is that we maybe got 3 girls that were willing to come on camera.
There was one girl who's very well known in Iceland in sports, and she even said, like, I'm still playing. Like, I want to finish my season. I want to finish my career before I start voicing my opinion on things. And it was just sad. Like, I was very discouraged. I was thinking, if we don't want this fight, do we have to wait for another generation for them to take the fight for us?
So we pivoted the project to, collecting these stories anonymously.
Margaret, who was a coach at Athena, she started to gather stories. She created a website called The Last Story. The idea was that we should voice the stories now, but it should be the last time we do this. And it should be the last stories that you hear of this kind of behavior.
The Last Story was created because we couldn't get the girls to talk about it. And the reason why we wanted the girls to talk about it is that we have young girls that are looking for role models. And if you don't have any role models, you maybe don't know what to do when you are in that situation. And also, if you don't have role models, it basically means that people are afraid. And when people are afraid, that's what you pick up from the culture. That's what's being normalized.
There was a biannual congress that KKI held. The chairman of KKI indirectly referenced this website and made a statement.
Að því sögðu, þá mikilvægt að hafa það í huga að KKI getur aldrei tekið á málum þar sem nafnlausir aðilar ásaka aðra nafnlausa aðila, hvort sem á samfélagsmiðlum eða á vefsíðunum. Mál sem koma upp þurfa að koma inn á borð KKI svo hægt sé að taka á þeim. Engum málum hefur verið eða verður sópað undir teppið. En það skal ítrekað að orðrómar eða sögur úti í samfélaginu geta ekki talist ábendingar til KKI sem hægt að taka á.
I almost couldn't believe that the association was going to take a passive stance on sexual harassment. Like, we're hearing something's going on, but we're not going to find out. We're not going to find out what's going on here until somebody brings it to us.
It's very, very strange to not take the opportunity, considering that you've repeatedly made statements that you are actually willing to and want to improve the environment for girls. You've been in a He4C movement and things like that you don't use the opportunity and actually say, if everything that's in those stories is true, this is not acceptable. And those that told those stories, please come to us and, tell us more.
How hard is it to say, we will not tolerate this type of stuff, we're going to find out what's going on? Because that should have been the response, not we haven't heard of anything. If you have anything, you need to bring it to us. We're just going to sit back and do nothing.
Við getum aldrei tekið á sögusögnum. Við getum aldrei tekið á einhverjum nafnlausum sögum nafnlausa aðila. Það líka það stundum með það sagt, akkur ekki búið að tala við þennan og þennan og þennan. Það mjög margir sem að liggja þó undir grun, aftur ítrykkaði það, við getum ekki fara að rannsaka hlutina. Þá verður fólk að leita til lögreglu. Við búum ákveðið regluverk í landinu, hvort sem að það heiti KKÍ eða annað, við höfum okkar regluverk, en svo landslög í landinu.
So why is the chairman of KKI talking about the national law restricting them from taking action on sexual violence and sexual harassment within the community? They seem to be able to make their own disciplinary rules with regard to anything that anyone says about them, like with the letter they sent to all the clubs. So what are they afraid of? Why can't they look into this proactively?
In comparison, the girls drop the medals when they're 11, and the chairman is on TV talking about, we're taking this very seriously, we need to do something about this is unacceptable.
Náttúrulega fordæminu hefur gert fyrir upphafi strax þetta athæfi sem átti sér stað. En náttúrulega jafnframt erum við líka að hugsa bara börnum sem þarna koma og við vildum gefa körfuboltadeild IR gott tækifæri að fara yfir þetta sín megin þegar ég var gert það núna. En við erum klárlega að fara bara vel í málin og númer 1 og 3 er að við lítum þetta mjög alvarlegum augum.
They actually hint that those girls have experienced violence.
Það hafa mjög margir haft samband við okkur undanfarin ár meðan þessi flokkur að spila með þessar áhyggjur sínar. Og það alveg rétt að þetta margt kannski kalla að það í þessi stað að hluta einhvers konar ofbeldi en ég engin sérfræðingur sem get dæmt það samt.
It's very easy then to take a stance, an aggressive stance and a public action plan, against the girls when they drop the medal, but when it comes to sexual harassment, you're just going to sit back and be passive? Seriously?
They didn't acknowledge them with very minor issue compared to being sexually harassed directly. How is this girl going to come 10 years later when she is on a national team and a coach harasses her? Is she going to trust them? I mean, she is not going to talk to them. She has no reason to trust them. If they don't believe that they can have an opinion about this, are they going to believe anything else they say?
And make sure everybody feels safe coming to you guys with this type of stuff, that they can trust you. And they should really be asking themselves why is nobody bringing anything forward? What are we doing that's making... Because you can't be that naive to think that nothing's going on. You're the only segment of society where there's no sexual harassment going on. When we've seen again and again, it's coming out, the last few years, it's everywhere.
Of course, I have a daughter that is starting to get picked on a youth national team, and she is going to be up there real soon. My reason I'm really speaking on it is because I want my daughter and her generation to never allow this to happen ever. To be strong enough and say no, you can't do it. And know their limits.
What was, I think, important for my girls was to hear Fanny's story.
We went out, we had a party, and he was there with us, and we went downtown. He came to me and my best friend, he came like this to us, let's go to a hotel. And we was just we was 19.
And for her to come into the team and sharing her experience with the girls, we cannot sit as silent bystanders. I don't care how old the story is. The same people that were involved when that happened, they're still there. The chairman is still there, and we need to do something about it. This is not to take lightly by any means.
So the girls are at the age now where they're getting invited to national team practices. I knew that certain players would never participate with the national team. They don't want to play for the national team with the KKI logo on them while KK has disrespected them. There are also girls that came in later and joined Athena, and these girls, they get it. They're just a part of this fight. I respect them a lot for giving up this opportunity to play with the national team.
She is now making her own decisions to not make herself available to be on a national team until she sees some changes, until she sees the coaches that was actually harassing girls when her mama was there, they are still involved with KKI. And she see it. I'm not putting it into her head. She got her own opinions. And I'm really proud that she stand up for herself and make that big of a decision to not make herself available for the national team. To be honest, me at her age, I would have never. I would have been like, oh yeah, national team, yeah, I'm there, you know. If my daughter and her teammates in Athena would be in my position at my 18-year-old time, I know they would not act like they're unhappy. They would look him in the eyes and tell him straight out, this ain't right. They are not gonna let nobody disrespect them.
So there are a few things that need to change for Athena to support their players to join the national team. We need a leadership that's, proactive in tackling those issues. We need a leadership that embraces criticism. We need a leadership that's willing to tell the community about those national team coaches and those issues that happen.
The ultimate goal is to create a better environment for our female players, that they are respected, they are treated as equals, that they're not sexually harassed, that they're given the same opportunities.
We need a leadership that takes a stance against violence